Right, okay. Right, we'll make a start. So, Julie and Tom starting today, or trying out, see if they like the class. So, introduce you.
Colin's not here.
Who?
Colin.
Yes. Is it Colin or
Ian.
Ian. No, it's Ian. Yeah, Ian's not very well. So we've got more than 2 people away today. Yeah, I don't know about Sue and Elaine. I think they might have been on holiday. Yeah, I think Elaine's on holiday and Sue just came from one off. She'll be back next week. Right, okay, anyway, we'll start. So, yeah, so I'm going to carry on. So this is so basically we've been working for 4 weeks on our own projects. And the demos that I've been doing have all been on the theme of tonal values, lights and darks. So the first couple of weeks I did demonstrations in charcoal. So I did a portrait one and a landscape one. Hello.
No, sorry.
Yes, all right, enjoy this. And then last week I did I think a landscape demo I did a little bit in inks and a little bit in watercolours. So I thought today I will use oils and acrylics. So really this demonstration you could work in either. You could work either mediums if you wanted. One suggestion I've got is to make a tonal scale. I've got a better one I made once. I remembered, but I can't remember where I put it. So I made another one last night.
That's age.
Yeah. Well, it's that and having loads of art materials all over the house, all over the garage, all over the place. But I remember I did write an article for a leisure painter magazine once, and once I made this, I remembered that I did do another one for that. But this idea I sort of demonstrated over the summer when I was painting Norfolk. And one idea is that you make a tonal scale, then you've got a bit of an idea of being able to. I don't know if you can actually sort of do a landscape or still life painting and just try and compare the tones. So that's something I need to trial. I think you might be able to an extent, but then if the sun is shining in certain directions, it's going to be more difficult. But since I have heard this as an idea, it's something I've been trying a little bit, trying to assess the value of the tone. But maybe getting a bit of paint on, say, a palette knife, and just offering it up to whatever I'm painting. So yeah, most of the painting I do is outdoor painting. But this would work really well with photographs. So if I wanted to see sort of how dark that bit is, I could, and that really is dark. So it almost feels dark on the black acrylic, which is reflecting a bit of light. Or here, or one thing is like comparing that tone to something down here. So if I sort of identify the tone, and the way to do this is to just really squint, really screw up your eyes, so that you're not really seeing details. So it's darker than that, I can tell. But I'm not sure if it's as dark as that. Like that way. Yeah, it's sort of almost in between. So maybe I need to try and get another tone in between the two. So let's say it's slightly lighter than that one. Then I compare that. And that may be a fraction darker. So that's where it could come in useful, because sometimes it's difficult to assess the relative tones within different areas. So if you did want to make one of these, what I'd suggest is maybe make it a bit neater than this, and make sure that they come right up to the edge, the tones come right up to the edge. Because if you've got like a big white border around, you can't really sort of see, it'd be like trying to assess it with that in the middle. Whereas if you've got that right up there, it is, I can come a lot closer to seeing what values there are. So that I think could be quite a useful thing. And the way I did this was I just started with white, I did it in acrylics. I actually mixed the paint on the scale itself, so I started a bit like that, and then just picked up tiny bits of black. I actually think it'd be better to just mix it on the palette. I've just been a bit lazy last night, and just try try and work out, what's the lightest I can make that, but it still looks slightly different to the white. Yeah, so that can be the next one. And perhaps divide it into 10 and aim to go from very lightest to very darkest across there. Gradually getting a little bit darker. So that might be the next increment there. Something like that. Yeah. So yeah, nice easy exercise, but I think could be a worthwhile one. So that's acrylic. The next thing I'm going to do in oil, just do quite like the oils. Would you prefer a portrait or landscape?
Landscape.
Landscape, right, we'll go with that. So maybe I'll do the portrait this afternoon. So again, this is just the idea of just working this in tone. So, I could, if I wanted to just sketch it out very. I've deliberately picked images that aren't, perhaps too much drawing. So don't worry about it being absolutely accurate. The main thing is just getting some sort of tonal values roughly in the right places. So that could be enough for drawing. And again, this is something I kind of saw demonstrated in the summer. Somebody painting in a very tonal way with oils. So I'm using water mixable oil paints. So I'm thinking the lightest tone, as I say, is something like that. Pop that in. So that could be my sky tone. And then going to the next tone is all these buildings in the distance. The other thing that we could do, which is what I suggested we do with colour mixing, this might be a good idea, is just get a plastic sheet. Then you can actually sort of offer it up and just compare on the photo. That might be better than the actual scale, particularly if you're working with a photo. So looking at that to me looks a fraction too light. So I'm going to add a tiny bit more of the grey tone into that. And just check that again. That looks too dark now. So we'll go a little bit lighter again. Yeah, that's fair, right. So that could be the next bit. That can be most of that. There are some darker tones within that. So this was a photo I took in Norwich years ago. And just get a smaller brush. So with perhaps this tone or that tone, they're a little bit darker. I'm just going to go a tiny bit smaller brush to get those. That even looks a little bit too dark, which is surprising. Let's just lighten up a bit. Yeah, that's not too bad, just like that. So the cathedral, Norwich Cathedral, do that tone. I'm not going to overly worry about, I know I can smarten this up and tidy it up. I've got a church here in the background. And there's a few other buildings, not the cathedral there. And then working forward, actually I'll do a little bit more, there's a little bit more here. These trees here are slightly darker tone. And then working forward, perhaps these shrubs. So get a slightly bigger brush. And then a little bit darker still. That feels about right. Think about that tone for those ones here. And that looks about the same for these here. These ones look a little bit darker, so I'm just going to go darker still. Yep, that's about right. And some dark ones there. And then really this area here, a bit lighter, so just going to go back to my big brush and a slightly lighter tone and just check those. That feels about right for the very lightest bits, which is about here. And then these darker shadowy areas will be something in between. Yeah, let's try something like that. Yeah, then I could just carry on and forward. So very quick, very sketchy, but hopefully would convey a sense of place just through lights and darks. And being oils, it's very easy to wipe bits out and move them around. Yeah, so that's could do exactly the same in acrylics, though. That would work just as well.
With acrylics, they dry darker than when
Yeah, that's true.
Mine, don't they?
Yeah.
The oils are the same, aren't they?
They should stay. I think the oils should stay all right as long as you don't put too much water with them. Water makes it. I'll see if I can demonstrate that. So that's that tone, like that. And if I can add a load of water to that now, and if you can see that looks lighter.
Yeah.
So I've not actually added any more white, but the water makes it. So basically, just tiny bits to make it flow, but don't overdo it. Yeah, that in a sense is easy with oils because you don't get the colour shift and the tone will shift. Whereas, yeah, you're right, acrylics dry darker. I think watercolours tend to dry a tiny bit lighter. So again, you just got to compensate for that. You just got to try it and see, and then let it dry and then see how it looks then, and then make the adjustments. Okay, right, thank you.